covering Mongoose. Does anybody know what that is? What Mongoose is going to do for us?
It's how we're going to do Mongo on JavaScript.
It's structured Mongo.
Structured Mongo.
Yeah, good. Good. Yeah, so Mongoose is going to allow us to interface with our MongoDB within the confines of our application. Okay, and it's also going to allow us to impose some structure on our data because we don't just want everything to be very willy-nilly where we don't know what to expect from any given document. We want to have some predictability there. Cool. So let's get something going where we can actually use Mongoose. I've got a Mongoose demo folder open for us. What's the first thing we generally want to do when we're starting a node project? We want to do our npm init -y. Good deal. Then we want to install our dependencies, right? So which dependencies do you think I want to install here? Express Mongoose itself, because that's what we're doing today. EJS if we want some dynamic templating.
Express session.
Not going to use it this time around, but yeah, for some of your assignments you will use Express Session. And then we touched on it. For those of you who were here on Friday, we did use Session. Yeah, wasn't a lot of you though. All right, so let's create our actual server file that's going to run our code, right? Okay, and inside our server.js, what do I need to do? Express. Oh, come on. There you go. Yeah, I've got this little shortcut that doesn't work every time for some reason. I don't know why. All right, now what do we need to do with Express?
Set it to an instance.
So let's make an application by invoking it, right? Is this too small? Okay, that's better, right? Cool, so we got our Express app. What else do we need to do? So before, like, let's say we don't even have any routes yet. What do we always have to do with the app at the end? It's at the end of this file. Yeah, I saw someone pointing to an ear. What does that mean? Listen. Listen, and then we'll listen on port 4500. Okay, great. So one thing that we're going to do in this demo is that we're going to take in some form data, right? Because we want to be able to take in the form data and then create a new instance of something, put it in the actual MongoDB. All right. Does anyone remember how we can handle form data in Express?
URL and code.
Okay. Yeah. So what's the complete syntax of this?
App.use.
App.use. Express. .url encoded. And then we have to, yeah, we have to actually invoke this.
Extended, right? True.
It's probably not going to matter if we set it to true or false.
What does that? What is that for anyway? The extended.
You're going to make me look it up now.
Oh, sorry. It's always set to true.
Is it?
Yeah.
For you? All right. URL encoded. Oh no, that's not what I want. Express URL encoded. Here we go. Turns the middleware. Wait, why is it saying the options are limit? That must be old. Okay, let's go in here. Extended. Based on query string. Extended true for parsing application X. Okay. Huh. Okay. I guess we do want to set it to true then. My bad. All right then. Excellent. So what's this called again when we say app.use?
Middleware.
Middleware, right? we're putting some logic in between the request and the response. All right, awesome. So what we're going to do in this application is that we're basically going to have two routes. We're just going to have one route, which is an index. We're going to show a form on that page where we can add something. And then we're also going to have another route where we handle the form submission itself. Okay. And what we're going to be creating today is a dojo schema. All right, so we can enter some different dojos. Man, what is it with the phones these days? All right, no worries. So in order to use Mongoose, what do I need to do? You got to require it. Yeah, exactly. Mongoose, right? And then what's the other thing that I need to do if I'm going to be using Mongoose?
Connect it to the database.
We need to actually, we need to run the connect method, right? So we'd say mongoose.connect. And then this takes a connection string you can see right here, URI string. So that string is going to look something like this, MongoDB. And then since we're using our localhost, we'll say localhost. And then this is going to be the name of the actual database that we want to work with. Okay, so I'll just call it Mongoose demo. Then we also have this optional second argument here that can be an options argument. And you guys may have noticed the ones that are in the Mongoose section that it would give you some deprecation warnings.
Yeah.
You guys come across that?
Yeah.
So we would want to set something like this, use new URL parser to true, right? And then what's the other one? Unified topology. What does this do?
I don't know.
Enables the new unified topology layer.
Oh, good.
Okay?
It's new. Shiny.
Yeah, shiny and new. So let's just set that to true. Okay, cool. So now we're theoretically going to be connected to Mongo, our MongoDB once everything goes through. Now the other thing that I need to do is create my actual schema too. So does anyone know how we create a schema? Okay, let's declare one. So we're gonna make it Dojo schema. So we'll say Dojo schema, and then what am I gonna set that equal to? So this will be a new instance, right? Mongoose dot schema, and then inside there I can actually provide the fields that I'm expecting the schema to accept, right? So we'll say we're going to have a field called location, and then I'm going to say what type that field will be, so it's going to be a string type. And then I'm also just going to set that I want this field to be required. Okay?
Can you make that box disappear?
Sorry about that. Yeah. So with required, if I pass in just true, that means that it's going to be required, but there won't be any kind of custom error message if somebody doesn't supply that. So if I wanted there to be a custom error message, and you guys probably will later on, we can pass an array to it, the first item being the true, and then the second item is just going to be the error message that you want in the event that a person does not supply a location. So let's say, please enter a location. Okay, and then we'll have one other thing here. So we'll also have a capacity here. So how many students can this dojo hold? We'll say this type is number. And then again, we'll say this is required as well. So true, please enter a capacity. All right. So that's basically all that I want to have happen here. However, as a second argument here, when I'm creating a new Mongoose schema, I can also pass another options argument. And here I can say timestamps is true. What's that going to do for me?
Timestamps.
Yeah. So specifically, each document is going to get a created at field and an updated at field, which we don't even have to mess with at all. It'll just be automatic for us. So that's pretty cool. All right, excellent. So now we've got our Dojo schema. Now how do I actually use that Dojo schema?
Create a Dojo object.
So I have to create a Dojo model, right? So I can say mongoose.model, and then it's going to be the name of the model, so I'm going to call this Dojo. And then notice how the second argument here is what schema do I want to go with that model. So the schema that I want to go with it is just this one that we created right here, the Dojo schema. So Dojo schema. And then notice too that we have some optional arguments here. So if I wanted to say what collection I want this to go in, I can do that. If I don't specify this third argument here, what it's going to do is it's going to take the name of the schema, or I'm sorry, the name of the model, which in this case is Dojo. It's going to convert it to lowercase, and then it's going to add an S to the end. Okay? So if we don't supply this third optional argument, it's automatically going to go into the Dojo's collection, which is totally fine with me. But if you guys ever need to modify what collection these things are going to go into, you can supply that optional argument. Okay, excellent. And then also, what I want to do is get a reference to this model as well. So what this did right here is it just registered the model with Mongoose. Okay, so now Mongoose knows about the Dojo model. Now I want to grab a reference to it. So I'll say Dojo equals mongoose.model. And notice how we're calling the exact same function. But what's the difference here? Yeah, so if we only supply a single argument, what that means is that I want to get a reference back to that model. Okay. Now you might be wondering, why am I even doing this in two separate steps? You actually don't have to, but later on when we work on modularizing our projects, you'll kind of see we're going to be doing these two things in two different files. Okay. But if I wanted to kind of keep it simple here, I can just say const dojo equals the result of registering that model like that. That would work too. Okay. All right, cool. Any questions so far before we move on? No? All right, great. So we haven't created our views folder yet, right? Let's do that. Create our views folder, and then how do we set that up here in the server?
You need to set EJS as the view engine.
Mm-hmm.
View app.set.
So app.set, and then we'll say view engine. Set that to EJS, right? And then I also need to set what else? Where are my views? Yeah. Okay, so I'll do dir name plus / views. Okay, so we're in pretty good shape now. All we really need to do is just set up our index route, right? Yes.
For EJS, how come we don't have to use the require for that? Because we do require for we install it.
Right. So actually, the application is using it under the hood. It's just we don't need to require it because when we register it with Express like that, Express knows where to find it. So we're telling it we're using EJS, so Express knows that it can look inside that directory for the code. Okay. So let's just set up a index route. So we'll say app.get / and then I'm going to have a callback function, right? And all we want to do for now is we just want to res.render our index. Okay? I haven't created it yet though, so let's create our index. So inside here, index.ejs. And then inside this, what we want to have is just a form where we can take in a new dojo. All right, so let's create that form. Our action is going to be, let's just send a post request to dojos, /dojos. Our method will be what? Post. Okay, and then inside this form, let's just put a couple inputs. So I'll have location. Yeah.
For method, will we only be putting posts to get there? We won't have to put
Yeah, those will not work inside a standard HTML form. Now later on, we'll actually be doing put and delete requests, but they're going to be happening through JavaScript, not a regular form submission. HTML forms can only handle post and get. Okay. All right, so we've got our capacity here. Capacity. I'll change this input type to a number, since that's what that is. And then we always need to have a submit button, right? Whoops, not button. Submit. All right, excellent. So we've done a lot of coding now. We better turn this app on and make sure that it's actually working, right? You don't want to get too far along only to discover, oh, I've got like 20 different errors going on. So let's get it going. Nodemon server.js. Okay, nothing crashed, so that's always a relief. Go over here to localhost 4500. There's our form, looking spiffy. All right, cool. So the other thing that we need to handle is an actual form submission, right? So what am I going to do for that? I've got that other route that I'm submitting dojos to. It's /dojos. So how am I going to code up a form submission here? App.post. And then we'll go /dojos. Don't really need that rec there. Okay, so again, we're going to have a callback function. Res. Okay. Inside the callback function, does anybody know what I'm going to do here to try to save that dojo that theoretically just came through my form?
I mean, I know what I need to do. I just need to double check.
It's okay if nobody knows. And I saw in the survey, too, someone said there were some awkward pauses here. It's by design.
It's by
No, that's totally okay. So if nobody knows, let's keep going. What we're going to do is we're going to say dojo, which is the name of our model, and then we're going to say create. Okay? And then inside this create call, we would provide the actual data that's going to create that new dojo. So where's that data coming from again? Rec.body. Can anyone tell me, how do we have access to this thing, rec.body? I'm thinking kind of like further up than that. Yeah, because we included this middleware right here on line 31. It's that URL encoded. So remember, for those of you who are here for the middleware section, if I were to move line 31 down below this post request right there, would I be able to have access to rec.body? Nope. So order does matter. Okay. So that's what we're doing. We're creating this dojo, and we can do it in such a way that we use promises. Do you guys remember promises at all? A little bit?
Catch.
Yeah, then catch, all that good stuff, right? Okay, so if I want to run some code after this dojo has been created, I can call this .then method, and then inside there, what do I want to have happen? Maybe just console log out the new dojo?
We don't have to do dojo.save.
Not if we're using this create method. And then we'll touch on the other method too that requires that. Okay. So we can console log out the new dojo. I can also do a .catch if I had some sort of problem, right? If there was a validation error. Catch. Again, I can just pass in console.log there. Then promises even have this thing called finally, which is some code that's going to run whether or not we had an error or it's successfully resolved. Okay? So inside my finally, I can basically just redirect back to the index page. Because we're going to go back there whether or not we had an error, right? Okay? So the callback function will look like this. It's not going to take in anything. And we're going to do res.redirect back to my index route. Okay, any questions about this before we move on? No? All right, fair enough. So let's give it a shot. We've got our app running here. We'll keep our console open, and then let's just enter Burbank, right? Opacity, maybe on a good day. Okay. So here was our console log here. It's telling us we had the location is Burbank, capacity was 80. Notice that we've got the created at and updated at, which is very nice. We didn't even have to mess with that at all. And then we've got that ID that we talked about a little bit yesterday, auto-generated. Pretty cool. And then this double under V, which Connor was asking about yesterday. So that is a Mongoose identifier. It's like a version number, but it's not something that you guys need to worry about.
We don't need to have
Okay.
Mongo running in the terminal in order to use Mongoose?
No, so if you installed it using Homebrew, which hopefully you guys did, you can run it as a service. So it's constantly running in the background. I would definitely recommend that, because the other way where you have to basically open up a new terminal and start up the whole service, you'd have to do that every, for every new assignment and stuff. It's,
You get access to everything.
yeah.
Was that how they wanted us to install it in the platform?
No, the platform is a little bit different, but it needs to be updated, and it will be updated. I just don't know how soon.
Yeah, it is pretty outdated.
Pretty outdated, yeah. So if you guys were frustrated about that, I understand.
How do you stop it? Like, since it's running forever in the background, how do you tell it?
So on Mac, if I want to stop it, whoops,
Or
let
on
me
the
just.
Windows? 'Cause, I think that's what's happening a lot
Shoot.
too.
Yeah, you're asking the wrong guy. Has anyone had to stop MongoDB on Windows? No.
Don't you just run it in your terminal? Mongo.
Well, if you have it as a Windows service, that's like the default option.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So how do you stop it when it's running as a Windows service?
You just go to like Task Manager and just.
Yeah, you can probably go into Task Manager.
Just brutally stop it.
Murder it.
Yeah, so if you're on Mac and you installed it with Homebrew, you can run brew services list to see which services you have running currently. And you'll see that I've got MongoDB-community right in here. So I could stop it. I could say brew services stop MongoDB-community. And then if I want to start it again, same thing, just brew services start MongoDB-community.
So it says db.shutdown server info.
In the Mongo shell?
Yeah, was that inside the shell, or are you talking about something else?
Yeah, it looks like it's in the shell.
Okay.
Oh, for Mac?
For anything. Because you just go into the shell Mongo,
What was it?
and it looks like you just do db.shutdown server. Camel case. Invoke it as a
Oh, cool. Let me try that real quick. So if we're in the Mongo shell, db.shutdown server only works with the admin database. Use admin. Okay. Failed, failed. Huh.
oh, yeah. Oh, up here. Yeah.
So if I got, okay.
Yeah, so you have to quit out of the shell. And then
So if I say brew services list, did it shut it down? says started. That's weird.
But it's like yellow.
True. Yeah, I noticed that too. I'm gonna say restart here,
Well, try
MongoDB.
connecting with Mongo.
All right,
Just leave it down.
go back to the Mongo shell.
Yeah.
All right. Oops.
Yeah.
Okay,
So,
that's cool. Good to know. All right, so I'm just gonna restart this real quick. All right, cool. So everything's good. We're able to actually create this new document, right? And we logged out the document that we created. So now I want to see this on the page. So what do you guys think I need to do to be able to see this on my index page? I want to see my list of dojos. Ah, you're thinking of like the Mongoose shell, right? Remember, we're now using Mongoose. So we have reference to this Dojo model that we created. Okay? So let's actually just go and grab all of our dojos before we render our index. Okay? So up here, we'll say dojo.find. And then if I put nothing inside there, that means I'm just finding all the dojos, right? Not looking for anything in particular. And then that's going to return me a promise. Okay? So again, we can use .then to say, what do we want to have happen once this promise successfully resolves and we get back an array of dojos. Okay, so I can say .then. Now I've got these dojos, and I want to res.render my index. Then the second argument that I'm going to provide to render, again, is sort of my context object. This is where I'm going to pass in the data that I want the template to have access to. So we'll say dojos. Notice how I have no colon here. Just so you guys are aware, if the name of the key in the object is the same as some variable that you already have access to, you don't need the colon, okay? I can just say dojos. Because again, I have access to it right here inside my callback function. See some puzzled looks. Anyone have issues with that?
Where's the dojos?
Or do you prefer me to go like this? I can do that too. Where's the dojos coming from?
Oh, from dojo.
So that's coming from the resolved promise. Once the promise is resolved, I'm going to have this array of dojos that came back from the database.
That could be any name, right? Since it's just a variable.
Yes, you can name that whatever you want.
Gotcha.
I recommend naming it something that makes sense. So notice how I'm using plural here. Sometimes I see people would put dojo in a plural situation, or they'll put dojos when it's just one. Try to stick with what makes the most sense, right? Okay, cool. So now that I'm passing that in there, we could also theoretically have some kind of error handler. I don't know. We'll just do a .catch here. If there's an error, what do I want to do? I'm just going to res.send something went wrong. And that's probably not how you would handle errors in a real application, but just,
Sometimes it says ERR.
Yeah, sometimes you'll see the error actually referenced like this.
Is that getting it from somewhere, or?
Yeah, so if an error happens, if this promise does not successfully resolve and there's an error, you will have reference to the error itself. Okay? So if we wanted to, say, log something out about that error, we would have reference to it here and we could log it if we wanted. So yeah, for now, let's just do log on that because I don't think we're even going to get any errors. Because again, all we're doing is we're just reaching in and grabbing all of our dojos. The only case in which there might be an error is maybe if you had your MongoDB not running currently. That could be a problem. All right, so let's get rid of this here. Now we've got access to dojos, so inside my index.ejs, I can actually cycle through them. So come down here, make a little table, thead, T-row, TD, TH, times 3. Okay. Up a couple levels, T-body, T-row, TD times 3. Okay, so now we got our location, capacity, and maybe we'll have an actions column where we could theoretically do something with that Dojo, right? Does anyone remember how we cycle through things, how we iterate through an array inside UJS? Okay. So we do the angle bracket, %, and then
Variable.
so we could say for const dojo, right? Of dojos. Okay, let me close this guy out here. And then down here we'll open up another one. Okay, so now I'm just going to move in my table row from there. So let's bring that up there. Good deal. And then to just output something to the template, how am I going to do that? What's the syntax on that? So yeah, it's going to be % followed by the equal sign, right? So we'll say dojo.location. I'm just going to duplicate this. So this will be capacity. And then we'll leave the third one blank for now. All right, fair enough. So let's see if we can get this on screen. There we go. So we got Burbank. So if I enter in another one, let's say Seattle, I think they can handle maybe even more than us. 100. Okay. I know, it seems like it would be kind of crowded, right? Tulsa, I don't know how many they can handle, maybe 50. Okay, so if I want to put something in this actions column, say maybe I want to be able to delete a specific dojo, let's do that real quick. Let's just try deleting. All right, so I'll just put a link in here for now. Let's say ahref delete, and then where do we want that to route to? We'll say dojos, and then we'll take in some ID of that specific dojo, right? So how do I output that again? Like this. All right. And then the other thing that I want to put at the end is just delete. Okay, so the route is going to be /dojos / the ID of the dojo and then / delete. Why does that ID have an underscore on it like that?
That's how it is inside of Mongo.
That's how it is inside Mongo. Yes, when we get back our list of dojos, they'll all have that underscore ID. Okay, cool. So let me just save this, refresh this, and let's make sure these URLs are right. So if I inspect that guy, you'll see that it's /dojo /ID /delete. So we're good, right? We just need to make an actual route for that. All right, let's do that real quick. So back in our server.js, I can make a route. It's going to be a get route. It's going to go to dojos /:ID. Why am I doing :ID? Does anybody know?
Parameters.
Yeah, it's a routing param, right? Sort of a wild card because I don't know what the ID is going to be. /delete, and then again I'll have this callback function. So we'll have a request and response. Now what I want to do is delete that individual dojo. Does anyone know how I get a reference to that ID that was coming through the URL?
You have to delimit it, right? It comes to request.params.
rec.params.id, because I'm calling it ID right here. So that's the name of my parameter. Okay. So I'm going to use this method dojo dot find by ID and delete. So this comes in handy because all I need to pass into this is just the ID of the dojo that I wanted to delete. Okay, so I can say rec.params.id. And then what do I want to have happen when I successfully delete that dojo? I probably just want to redirect back to the index route, right? Okay, so our callback function will just do res.redirect back to the index route. All right, so let's test this out. So let's say I want to delete Tulsa. And there it goes. Get rid of Seattle. Don't like Seattle. Yeah, Seattle's done. So that's that. I want to explore validations briefly, but before we get there, did this part make sense to you guys mostly? Deleting something?
So no rejects or params like in Django.
No, we can use regex inside these if we wanted to. I don't want to in this case because I don't particularly know what the regex is for a MongoDB ID, but you could. The only thing that would really accomplish is it would say if that ID was sort of malformed, if it wasn't, let's say an ID came through and it was 12, for instance, this route handler would not even trigger, right? Because your regex is saying, I only want to match this type of ID. So if that didn't match, it would just be skipped over. And ultimately, since that's the last handler that we have, you'd end up with one of those cannot get, whatever the route was. Okay? All right, cool. So we've got that. What if we try entering a dojo and we do not include capacity? Like, what if I just comment out this right here?
What's that required?
Yeah, we're going to get an error, right? We're going to get an error in that dojo.create call that we ran.
Then you put like a default insert information here. It was in green.
A default? What do you mean?
When you did the model thing or the
No, I didn't put a default in there. You could in your schema, but I don't have one. So
Please
here,
enter a capacity.
yeah, see, there's no default in here. You could specify a default for it, though. But no, I didn't. So I'm saying that it's required, meaning that if I don't provide it, well, I should get an error on trying to insert one, right? Okay. So let's open up our console and make sure that happens. Go back here, and I'll just say, whoops, let me refresh the page. So now we only have location, right? Tulsa. And then if I go to my console here, notice that we've got this error that logged out. Okay? And it's telling me what the error message was, so please enter capacity. That was that custom message that I put inside the schema. Okay. By the same token, if I go back to this and I try to enter it with no location either, so I just leave this completely blank, now I should get an error that has two different messages inside of it, right? One for location, one for capacity. So go like that. And you'll see you've got please enter a location. Why did it not give me capacity? That's kind of what I was thinking, but wait. Oh yeah, it is. Yeah, so we've got both of them here. So you can see the first one was capacity, and then we've got our custom message up there. And then if you roll down even further, we've got the second one for location. Okay? So we're getting errors for both of those things now. Also, if I were to, let's say I change the name of capacity here in my form to cap. Come back here, refresh this real quick, say Tulsa 50. And then back in my terminal, see how we still got the capacity error? So why is that? What went wrong? Yeah, because my schema is expecting a field called capacity, but I provided a field called cap. And since it didn't match, saying, you don't have this required field. So it's not going to work.
Where did you put the cat?
I changed it in the actual form here.
Oh,
So this is sort of a common trip up that people run into, is that the names on their inputs don't always match what the schema is expecting, and therefore you're going to run into errors. It won't actually create the document for you. Okay, so I just wanted to show you guys that. Also, one other thing that I told you I would show you is creating a document using the new way of doing it, or not the new, not the most recent way, but using the new keyword. Okay, so rather than dojo.create, I can do something like new dojo. Oops. If I create a new dojo, then I would need to pass in the data, which is rec.body, right? Body. And then after that, I need to call the save method. Okay, so this should essentially accomplish the exact same thing. It's a different syntax. So in this case, we're actually creating a new instance of the dojo model, and then we're saving it afterwards. All right. So let me make sure I fix my form too, so that doesn't error out on us. Okay, and then if I go here and enter in Tulsa again, all right. So it's working exactly the same way. Did you see that, Ivan? Are you on your phone? Man, I did this for you. You asked for it.
I know, I'm sorry.
All right. So that's it. That's how to incorporate Mongoose into our projects and actually have some persistent data. Anything you guys want to cover before we
can I see
get
that
ready
part?
for sports day? Which part?
Oh, that last part. We did the new.
Where we did new dojo, and then we passed in the rec.body, and then we called the save method on it. So I would just stick with the create form. It's a little bit more succinct. But yeah, they accomplish the same thing. Cool. Any other last minute questions? Okay, thumbs.
It was a lot more easier to see this being done because the platform's composing.
Yeah.
What's the difference between doing dojos instead of dojo in dojos?
Ah, yeah, that's a good question, and I've seen this come up here and there. So if we do dojo in dojos, dojos is an array, right? If we use the in syntax, it's actually going to give us the index of each item. So rather than getting the dojo itself, we would get 0, 1, 2, and so forth. So that's not going to obviously do you any good inside your template, because if you get back a 0 index and then you try to get the location property on that, you're going to get an error, right? 0.location. Okay, cool.
Can you go back to the HTML for?
Yeah, I'm here right now.
Or the page, I mean.
Yeah, I'm on the page.
The page that rendered. Oh, the actual
When
page.
the-
Oh, in the browser. Got it. Yeah.
Someone just put
And refresh it.
Okay.
He's
There's some theory happening in the background.
someone just put hacker. I don't know who's that. Someone just
Oh, is that yours? Oh, that's yours.
You did that? What? Oh my gosh.
Did you just go to local?
Huh? Not my local host. Yours is being tricky.
Watch out, people.
Put on your firewall.
Yeah.